Do you ever find yourself setting ambitious goals only to feel overwhelmed or disappointed when you don't see immediate results, or any for that matter? Most people aren't aware that there is a good way to set goals and a better way. What's fascinating is how simple changes in our goal-setting approach can make all the difference and finally let us achieve what we aspire, whether that's getting fit, reading more, or building a successful business. If you want to know how you can actually reach your aspirations better and faster, then keep watching. Hi friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Hannah. I'm a newbie entrepreneur and usually not a big fan of goals. I definitely would not consider myself the type of person who sets themselves goals on a regular basis. I think I've written down my 3-month goal once or maybe twice, and the only goal I've currently set for myself is to hit at least 100 grams of protein intake every day. Yet, I feel like I'm currently achieving more than ever in my life. And that is because I'm embracing the power of process-oriented goals rather than outcome-oriented goals, aka the classic type of goals. So in this video, I want to dive into why I don't like and have never liked setting goals in the common sense for myself, and why I don't recommend you to do that either, how I and the world's most successful people approach goal setting instead, and how you can set your own process-oriented goals in a way that works for you. Let's dive in. Part number 1, out with the outcome goals. Before I tell you why I and other highly successful people do not like to set outcome-oriented goals, let's first define what that even is. Outcome goals are the type of goals that focus on an end point of an event. And that goal is only considered achieved if that event actually happens. Very common examples for this is to get an A in the exam, or to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, or to hit 100 subscribers within the first year of YouTube. And there are better and worse ways to set these outcome-oriented goals. You might have heard of the SMART technique. And if you apply that SMART goal-setting technique to your outcome goals, that's probably still better than setting no goals and not having any clue where you want to go. But there are a lot of counter-arguments against outcome-oriented goals, including if you focus on the destination, the journey feels like pain. And the thing is that even if we achieve that end goal, if we reach that destination, whether that's getting a good grade, hitting 100 subs, getting married, that is most probably gonna make us happy for an hour, maybe a week, maybe even a couple of months, depending on the event. But at some point, we get used to that new state, and then it just feels normal. And that can really make us depressed because we've worked so hard to get there, and we thought we would finally be happy if we got to that destination. But then we realized that happiness only lasts a short while. And that's why focusing on outcome-oriented goals, on the destinations rather than the journey, tends to make us unhappy, because most of the time we're on a journey. Life is a journey. Next to that happiness hamster wheel, focusing on outcome-oriented goals also puts a lot of pressure on us and can be a really, really big motivation killer. To illustrate this, let me tell you a little story of mine. Earlier this year, I quit my 9-to-5 job also to become a successful entrepreneur. And one of my main projects was my own app business. And that was one of the few times in my life where I set myself a 3-month goal. And I set myself the goal to have the MVP of the app ready and maybe already be making money. And 3 months to build a whole app is not a lot of time, especially not for a beginner, especially not for my situation, because of course things didn't go as planned. Not at all. So after 3 months of working on that app, I was nowhere. I did make some progress, obviously, but I was not even close to having an MVP ready. And how did that make me feel? Shitty. I felt like a failure because I told people that after my first 3 months that I spent in New York working on my app, I would have something launched. And I really had to work hard mentally to not fall into a little hole of depression because I felt like a little failure. And I rearranged my mindset to focus on the process, because the outcome, aka the MVP, was something I could only partially influence, because the only thing you can actually influence is the input that you put into whatever you want to achieve. So at that point, I spent some time on building my systems and refocused on my process-oriented goals, aka systems, which brings me to part number 2, in with the input goals. Process-oriented goals, systems, input goals are all synonyms for the type of goal that is not associated with a certain event happening or not happening, but instead on what you do. Because we ourselves are the only person who actually can influence if we achieve what we want to achieve. Because everything else is, at least to a big extent, dependent on external factors. And external factors are external. And if we attach our happiness and our feeling of success to these external factors, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Another example here is YouTube subscribers. I unfortunately cannot directly influence how many subscribers I get, except by asking you to subscribe and hit like. Thank you. But other than that, I can just do my best to get better at making videos, at providing the most value possible to you guys, so that many of you find value in my videos and want to subscribe and watch my videos. But since that is something I cannot really influence, I have to focus on what I can influence, which is my system of making videos. Another very common example where people struggle with not hitting their goals is fitness. Even in my case, although I'm extremely, I would say, health conscious and motivated to work out on a regular basis, if I would have set for myself the goal to look snatched for the summer earlier this year, I would have been very disappointed, because in the beginning of this year I had a big ass inflammation in my knee for months, and I could work out, but not nearly as much as I needed to in order to look snatched. And also I was on cortisol, which meant that my body was not looking the way I would have liked it to look at all. But that did not get to me in the sense of not having achieved a certain goal, because I adapted my system, aka my workout routine, to that situation. In my case, that meant I mainly focused on my upper body and only worked out my lower body in a way that was possible, which is kind of hard if your knee doesn't work, but there is still some exercise that I could do. And through that, I actually felt probably even better than if I would just have had the goal of, having an apple booty. Do you say apple booty in English? I don't know, we said it in German. By the beginning of the summer, because I was kind of proud of myself that I managed to at least keep some muscles in my upper body until I had an inflammation there too, but that's another topic. Even though I had that big bump in the road, that made it really hard for me to keep my muscles existing, basically. And I'm not the only person who recommends to set process-oriented goals or systems rather than outcome-oriented goals. Setting systems rather than goals in a typical sense is one of the key ideas of James Clear's famous Atomic Habits, which is the Bible, by the way, if you want to achieve anything in life, basically. Okay, now that we've discussed why you should throw out the outcome-oriented goals and throw in the input-oriented goals, let's talk about how you can actually set your systems. First step here, of course, is to know what you want. And I would recommend you to not do that in the goal setting type of way, but rather in the priority setting type of way. Meaning, what are the areas in your life that you want to achieve something in? That can be work, that can be fitness and or health, that can be your social life, that can be your love life. What are the things in your life that you want to change for the better? And I know this can be hard, figuring out what you want, but figuring out what you want to do with your life or what's actually important to you is the topic for another video. So for now, let's assume that you do know what you want, at least in one area of your life, to make this easier. Let's take as an example health and fitness, because most people, at least to some extent, want at least to maintain their health and fitness level, if not improve. No pressure here if that's not your goal, but let's just take it as an example. Instead of saying, for example, I want to lose X amount of pounds by the end of the month, or I want to be able to squat X amount of pounds by the end of the year, look at what you can do to get towards that wish of yours, that aspiration. Meaning, in this case, creating a workout routine and a diet plan that works for you and that you can actually stick to. And what helps here is to break these systems down in little chunks. So for this example, don't just say, I want to go to the gym more and eat better, but specify what little chunks of that aspiration you're gonna change. For example, exercise, food, sleep, which is also very important in all fitness goals. And then when you have your bigger chunks, try to optimize the little chunks of that big chunk. For example, if right now you're not really enjoying your workout, think about different kinds of workouts. For example, you don't like the gym very much and don't like pumping iron, that's fine. You don't have to force yourself to do that. You can also find another type of sport that you actually enjoy, whether that's Pilates or dancing or boxing. And then when you know what you like, decide how much time and energy you can and will realistically spend on working towards that process-oriented goal. And then focus on the next big chunk. For example, nutrition. When I kind of lost all my muscle mass in the beginning of this year because of my health situation, I did not set myself the goal to hit certain measurements by the end of the summer, but instead I planned out my workout routine in a kind of intense but still realistic way, and optimized my diet in a way that I never did before. In my case, that meant doubling my protein intake, because I used to eat way too little protein, even though I should have known better, but nobody knows it all. So I just started to eat more and more protein every day and stick to my workout routine that worked for my life. And now my physique is actually even better than I would probably have set for myself as an outcome-oriented goal a couple of months ago. Because I just optimized my system, focused on sticking to that system, and I reached my goals kind of automatically. And I'm not saying that this is easy. Also, following your process-oriented goals can be very challenging. But the good thing is every time you do something for that process-oriented goal, aka every time you stick to your system, every time you go to the gym, every time you eat that apple, every time you read a page, you feel accomplished. And feeling accomplished is one of the biggest motivators out there. And if you're motivated, it's just a lot easier to stay disciplined. And that's the vicious cycle, or do you say vicious cycle? No, it's not vicious. That's the natural cycle of process-oriented goals. You are rewarded by sticking to your process-oriented goals, by sticking to your system. By sticking to your systems, you are rewarded. So you are caught in the loop of reward and achieving what you want to achieve. If you like this video and want to build a better everyday system to actually make time for your process-oriented goals, have a look at this video right here where I share how I created my perfect workday routine for maximum productivity and success in both my work life and my personal life. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.